Hello everybody and welcome to this week's episode of my weekly card reviews. In this week I'm going to review the cards of Season 2, Week 7. This is the last week of cards that we'll get in September, so all cards starting next week will take another month to get into the game. This is very important because it means that now is the time to theory craft your decks for the next month. Of course, for this you can now use the last 4 weeks of cards. And yeah, this week there was a bit of a controversy about the cards that got in, because some of those had like very few upvotes and still got in, while others with a lot more upvotes didn't get in. So there was a call for a bit more transparency from the developers. And yeah, I think that would be a very nice thing to have, because right now it's all very ambiguous, and like you kind of have to be like, oh, okay, my card didn't get in. Yeah, had 30 upvotes, but I guess it's the in-game vote or something. But and this also caused a lot of trouble already. For example, my card Fusion Project didn't get in at first because there was some trouble with the voting system, but yeah, whatever. Also, there was the sad news that tournaments are not going to be a thing anymore. There just weren't enough players. Very sad thing. I always like to participate in the tournaments. They were always a lot of fun, and I hope there will still be a few tournaments hosted by WAG or other people, but yeah, I can definitely see why those weren't very profitable. Because yeah, there were just lower and lower numbers of players every time. But yeah, I hope there will still be tournaments hosted by some players. And yeah, this week I'm going to not go over the cards in the order that is on the website, but instead I will go over them in affinity order. So I will start with mind cards, then strength, then spirit. There are no neutral cards this week for some reason. This is not like a change of system or anything. I'm probably not going to employ this next week or the weeks after that, but it works really well with how I'm going to review this week's cards, because there are some very noticeable synergies between the cards. So that's how I'm going to do it. And yeah, let's jump right into this very interesting week of cards. The first card of the week is Crab Mortar. It's a 1-mana 0/2 Crab Pirate in Mind, and it has Ward, and when this attacks or blocks, deal 1 damage to your opponent. And this is a very interesting effect because it's a 0/2, which is a very bad stat line, or a very defensive stat line, but it's also an aggro card, because the 1 damage ping is obviously meant for Ashgardi to proc her passive and get the 5 XP. And this can be an upside in this way, that even if your opponent has a blocker to block this, the 1 damage ping will go through. But therefore it has the downside that if it does get blocked, then you're not dealing damage to the blocker, and essentially you played a 1-mana deal 1 damage to your opponent, which is pretty bad. The big upside that I see with this card is if you play against a very action-heavy deck that doesn't usually play a lot of units in the first few turns, then this can pretty easily be 1 damage to your opponent every turn after turn 1, and that can definitely be considerable. But ultimately, I think this card might be something for some sort of Ashgardi deck, but you don't really want to play it in a unit-heavy deck, because if you're already playing a lot of units, then you might actually just play a unit that actually has an attack value. And also there are already a lot of good 1-drops for Mind Ashgardi decks, stuff like the Chip Burglar, stuff like the Torch Tile. Yeah, you can name a few more if you want. There's also the Neon card. So yeah, I don't really know if this is worth it. Maybe if Rig-Tig decks that do like Fog and everything are very popular. So I give this card 2.5 stars. I could see this being played in Ashgurdi theoretically, but I think in practice it's probably not strong enough. But also maybe there's going to be like some crab or pirate tribal archetype, so perhaps more synergy is coming in the future. But for right now, it's kind of it's an okay card to play in Ashgurdi, but I think it's mostly underwhelming in like most situations. The next card of the week is Memory Lapse. It's a 2-mana mind action that says return target unit to hand, increase its cost permanently by 1. So this card is very similar to effects we already have in the game. Those being, for example, the Tractor Beam or Forgive and Forget. Basically the same effect, but one has like the option to play a different card where you get back a card from your graveyard, and the Tractor Beam on the other hand has Fast, which is mostly irrelevant but can be relevant in some situations. And on the first glance, this looks pretty much like a direct power creep of that, because not only can you return a unit to your opponent's hand, giving like them losing a lot of tempo with that, but also it increases the cost by 1. So it's even harder for your opponent to play that card. So often this will be kind of like destroy a unit or something, because you won't see that unit for quite a while after you play the Memory Lapse. But of course this also comes with the downside that now you can't actually use Tractor Beam on your own units, or like you still can do that, but then you will increase their cost by 1, which is usually not bad. Memory Lapse is also very good against combo decks, stuff like the Neon King and the Cat combo, where you like play units and then infinitely and then play the Neon Ronin and stuff like that, because if you increase the cost of one of those combo cards by 1, then it gets a lot harder to play that card over and over again. So yeah, I think this card is very solid. It's kind of like a power creep to the Tractor Beam in most situations, I think. But also I was wrong while I rated the card Unsummoning, which also looks very good, but it's not quite as good in practice. So this might also not be as strong. But I give this card a flat 4 stars. I think you will see this in like Ashgurdi and Riktik and Kyungmi decks every once in a while. Maybe they start in 1 or 2 copies or something, and it's going to be a solid like tempo disruption tool kind of. But yeah, it's kind of just a nice toolkit card to have. So yeah, 4 stars. The next card of the week is Energy Syphoner. It's a 3-mana 0/4 Spectre Elemental in strength, and it has when a friendly unit dies, ready this, and it has active deal 1 damage to an enemy unit. So in the optimal case, you kind of like deal 1 damage to an enemy, then you kind of get one of your units killed, either by using a duelist unit that kills itself while dueling with another unit, or while playing a self-sack deck, for example with the glowstones from Glowstone Mine, or like with other sack cards. And then you kind of just use the deactive over and over again to kind of clear your opponent's board. Note, however, that it can only target enemy units, so you can't use it to mass sacrifice your own glowstones. But still, I think this is a solid card. People were very quick to compare this card to Gifted Telepath, which was a 4-mana mind card in the past, which was argued to be one of the worst cards in the game. But this card can be quite a bit better. I think this has notable synergy, of course, in the self-sack deck, but also just in wolf decks, or like duelist heavy decks in general, because those can often plan when their unit die. So I think this might have a place there. And yeah, generally speaking, I think the realm that it's from, Mordstahl, is kind of based on like units dying and stuff, so maybe there's going to be more synergy for that in the future. But right now I think it's pretty solid. I give it 3 stars. I think you might slot like 2 copies of it into your wolf deck. And perhaps some other decks, maybe you play one off in Highlander, Palmer. But yeah, just kind of a solid card. Has potential, but nothing too good, and in some cases it's just going to be Gifted Telepath at 3 mana. The next card of the week is Unguian Warchief. It's a 6 mana 1/3 Lizabo in strength, and it has Overrun, Summon, create 2 Lizabo Wartents. And the Lizabo Wartent is the iconic 2 mana 0/3 place that has canned attack, and your Lizabo have +2 attack. And I think the Unguian Warchief is, of course, it's a Lizabo support card, and I think it's like kind of the main finisher for Lizabo decks. I think Lizabo decks might be going to be very good the next month because they get the Yamato Omamori, which is a way for them to puke their whole hand onto the board very early, and then perhaps they are going to follow that up with something like the Warchief. And the downside that it has is that it takes up 3 slots on the board for it to be the +4 attack, and also, like, if your opponent has some way of dealing 3 damage to all enemy units, or just 3 damage to like units in general, then all the Wartents and the Warchief are going to be destroyed in an instant. Also, your opponent can just duel the Lizabo Wartents for free with something like the Warwolf. But this can also be an upside, so if your opponent only has a Demon Heart or a Gun with the Wind or like some other destroy unit card, then they can only destroy 1 Lizabo Wartent or the Unguian Warchief and not one thing, or like not one unit that has all of it. So it's also kind of an upside that it's spread among the 3 units. So I think Unguian Warchief is a pretty good finisher card for Lizabos, but I think it's not as important for the Lizabo decks as the Yamato Omamori is. Also, like, it's 6 mana, so maybe it's a turn too late or something. Like, I can imagine that being the case. But yeah, I give this card 3.5 stars. Solid finisher card for Lizabos. Yeah, also it synergizes very nice with the 5 mana Tok card. I don't know how to pronounce the name, because then if a friendly Lizabo kills a unit, then it will buff all your Lizabo Wartents. So you can get your Lizabo quite a few attack with some combination of the Lizabo finishers. So yeah, I think the Lizabo deck is going to be pretty strong. Of course, the Warchief is gets stronger if the Lizabo deck is strong, but I think it's a relatively good addition to that deck. So yeah, 3.5 stars. The next card of the week is a Spirit card, the first Spirit card. There are a lot more to come, and it's a 2 mana action called Canned Spinach. It's a food, and it has a feed. Fed units gain Overrun and +2 attack. And I'm going to make this short. This is a 1-star card. It's terribly weak, I'd say. I think it would be balanced, if not underpowered, at 1 mana. Food decks might be going to be a thing next month, but I am very much not thinking that this is going to be an inclusion in that deck, because 2 mana for 2 stats and Overrun is just not enough, even if you're going to play a bunch of cards afterwards. But yeah, I think this is just way too weak. There are better food alternatives, and this could easily get a buff. So yeah, 1 star. So next up we have the first of a few very, very interesting designs. It's a Vigorous Maw. It's a 3 mana spirit unit. It's a dragon undead, and it's a 3/1. And it has before combat, if you control at least 2 undead, put this from your graveyard to play. and it also has entrance dual a unit. So this is pretty much straight up undead support. It's kind of similar to Undying Brood, but it is quite different in like the ways that it affects the gameplay, because when you play this, it's first of all it's a 3 mana deal 3 basically. Perhaps it also stays on the board if you use it on something like Bib and Bob, so something with 0 attack. So that's not too bad. And then every turn before combat, if you have 2 undead, which is very easy to do if you're playing an undead deck, then it comes back and it immediately deals 3 damage to an enemy unit, perhaps. So and the insane thing about this is when you play this, it immediately duels a unit, so perhaps it dies, and so on the same turn before combat, it can already come back to the battlefield, into play, and duel another unit. So often this will be 3 mana, deal 6, basically. And I think that's insane. It's also, of course, it gets synergy stuff with everything that undead are doing. So if you have Froggy of Life, you can give this +2/+2 permanently. You can also give this stats with your Unbelieving Belfry. You can bring this back with effects. Yeah, no, it's not the kind of card that you bring back, but it comes back to the field every single turn, and every single turn you get to deal 3 damage to some unit, and it's just so strong. Also in combination with all the other undead cards you have, because I think undeads are going to be really strong even without this, because they have the Yamato Umamori, which is an insane card, I think. So they can vomit their board very early as well. They get an anti-Palmer card with the 2 mana 2/2 agile card that has all actions cost 1 more. They get so much stuff, and then they also get this card, which is 3 damage to every turn. Perhaps just killing everything that your opponent tries to use to deal with your swarm of units. So this is obviously a 5-star card. There's already a very popular change on the subreddit that changes it to 2 attack, and you need 3 undeads for this to come back. So I'm just going to assume that will make it in, and assuming that that goes in, then I think this is still a pretty solid card, because even if it's just 2 damage every turn, as long as you manage to get this every turn, and I think you are very likely going to be able to pull it off, then it's just recursive damage, and I think it's still pretty solid. You can use it to deal with your opponent's stuff. You can use it to just support your main board. It's probably not going to be a 5-star card after the nerf, but probably more like a 3.5 stars card or something, because undead also have a lot of very good stuff already, so I'm not sure if they will be able to put in the nerfed version of this. But yeah, right now it's obviously 5 stars, and it's a very good card. And yeah, the next card of the week is Leyline Watcher. It's also a spirit unit. It's 1 mana 0/2, and it has, at the end of turn, pay 2 mana, silence this, and gain 1 max mana. It's also an exclusive card, and I think this card is very interesting. First of all, it's mana ramp, and it gains you the XP, the max mana permanently. So if you're going to play a combo deck, which spoiler, you are going to see quite a few combo decks in the next month, and then this card is very solid, because combos usually need a lot of mana, and therefore mana ramp like this is very good. Also, in those combo decks, you usually don't have anything good to do on the 2 mana spot anyways on turn 2, so perfect card for that. But also I think this card is just very good in that in general, because first of all, it's a 0/2, so perhaps it makes you proc your passive and gain 1 XP. And then on its own, you also get a turn 2 play, because you just don't play anything, pay the 2 mana, and get 1 max XP on turn 3. So you have 4 XP, 4 mana to, and like you have 1 more mana every turn after that. So perhaps you want to ramp out your Syphoner, or you want to play your other 4 mana cards or whatever. Also, that has a lot of strong late game, so mana ramp is always good for that, because you can play stuff like Lizabo, the how is it called? The 8 mana Lizabo guy that is like a 6/10 and has like duelist and everything. You can also ramp out the Veiled Mother, or you can ramp out the Chlorp or the Dan Smith. Like, there are tons of possibilities, and also a 1 mana 0/2 is very good for another ramp card, which is Spirit of Plenty, which is being hyped up a lot by people in the community. Some are calling for a nerf already. I think it's a bit overrated, because it's so bad against aggro and aggressive decks in general. But like Spirit of Plenty and the Blossoming, they synergize very well with cards that have like bad stats and that you play early. So this is a card for that. And yeah, I think this card is a very solid inclusion in most dead decks. Also perfect for combo. So I think this is 4.25 stars. I think it's going to be in most dead decks in the next month and in the future in general. But also the main problem why this might not be as strong as it could be is that Dad usually wants to play on curve, and Dad usually also wants to play some anti-aggro card on turn 2. So something like Huntsman Jr. or the Acoustic Kitty or the RPG Avatar. So I'm not sure how you will arrange that, but like just as like you can also just wait a few turns and then pay the 2 mana on turn 4 or something, and it's still solid. And if you draw it later on, then it's just 3 mana 0/2 that gains 1 max mana. Sure, that's good. That's good enough to play in your dead deck, I think. And yeah, but of course, like you're going to annoy a lot of opponents by playing this turn 1 and gaining 1 max mana on turn 2 already. So yeah, very solid card. Going to see play in most dead decks. And now we are on to the last 3 cards of the week. Those have a bit of a synergy that ties them together, but let's start out with the first of them, the Lost Huntsman. It's a 4 mana 3/3 Spirit Spectre, and it has, whenever this enters the graveyard, pay 1 to deal 3 to a unit. If that kills it, return this to your hand. And this card is interesting because it has a lot of different applications. If you were to directly play this, then it would be rather bad. It would be 4 mana 3/3 that when it dies you get to deal 3 damage to unit, and essentially it has infinite rebound most of the time. But I think that's too slow. That's not how you're going to use it. But instead you will get it into your graveyard with other means. For example, by discarding it. The most obvious one would be with Spook Blast, which is a Spectre synergy card, and that there you could discard Lost Huntsman and pay 1 to deal 3 damage to unit, and then you would probably get it back too. But there are a lot of other possibilities, and it's pretty strong to have 1 mana deal 3 tackled to all your discard cards. So your Magic Dave, your other Spectre guy, the 3 mana 3/3, your I don't know, your 2 mana mind spells and everything has every discard synergy card has 1 mana deal 3 attached to it, and also you can do this an infinite amount of time, because like with 3 damage you're most of the time able to kill something. And I think that's actually really, really strong. I'm going to go ahead and say this is a 5-star card. I think you can pretty much just dedicate like a whole discard package to discard, because 1 mana deal 3, and that an infinite amount of time, and also you don't need to discard any of your actual good cards. That is really, really strong. And I think you might also just go like play a Marie deck where in the early game you use your discard cards to discard the Lost Huntsman and deal with your opponent's board, and then after you've gained enough XP and you reach level 3, then you can use your discard cards to discard stuff like Legion, Vox, and Schlorf, so that you can win the game with your level 3. So the whole discard thing has multiple purposes and stuff. Also, this could be useful for like mill. So if you were to mill this with some mill cards, then you could use this to also pay 1 to deal 3. It has lots of different applications. 5-star card could easily just be pay 2 mana. But yeah, it's kind of like not the kind of card that you can fit into any deck, but I think it's very likely that building around this would be worth it. And also I have a very specific archetype in mind for it that I will tell you about in a few seconds. So yeah, on to the next card. This is 5-star card. The next card is Overflowing Thoughts. It's a 3 mana spirit action, and it has both players draw 2 cards, then mill cards equal to the amount of cards in their hand. And first of all, this is obviously a pretty good use case for the Lost Huntsman, because you're going to mill a lot of cards, and if you play Lost Huntsman in your deck, chances are that you're going to get one of them into your graveyard, and then the 3 mana draw 2 cards suddenly is the 4 mana draw 2 cards and do some stuff, and also deal 3 damage to an enemy unit. So that's pretty strong. But I think this card actually has a lot of use cases as well. It's a bit of a niche application, because usually you don't want to have your opponent draw 2 cards as well, but the mill card is actually pretty significant, because this can easily mill you and your opponent 5 to 10 cards or something. So this could be played both in enemy mill, so obvious use case for that. You also draw them 2 cards, so you thin their deck by quite a bit. You can use this on self mill, or like some self mill enemy mill hybrid deck. I heard those are a thing with Penumbra and everything. But also like milling cards can be good for Marie, because you can proc your passive with that, and you can get fodder for your level 3 into your graveyard. And there's also, like, I think this card is like the whole, like, milling 10 cards that can have quite a bit of impact. For like, I'm going to spoil it for the next card that I'm going to review. I think there's a very good combo that you can play, and that involves both Overflowing Thoughts and the Lost Huntsman. And there you want to mill a high cost card, and this is perfect for that, of course, because getting high cost cards into your graveyard is this is very good for that. But yeah, I'm going to rate this 4.5 stars. I think it has a lot of different applications and has a lot of potential there. I'm not sure how good it will be in the specific ones, but yeah, I'll go on to the next one, and then maybe you can see why I think so highly of Overflowing Thoughts. So the next card is the big one. It's Budding Spire. It's 5 mana, 5/3. It's a plant, and it's in spirit, and it has Ambush. Summon, you gain 5 HP, and Entomb, deal damage equal to the amount healed this turn to your opponent. And like on the surface, this is just a very fine card for plants. I think plants are going to be solid. And with this, it gains your HP. It has immediate impact because of the HP gain, and also it has Ambush. And also it lets you like use your healing mechanics in the plant deck to damage your opponent. So I think this is a very good card. It's in plant already, but the main idea where I think this card will be really, really strong is in a very specific combo deck. So what I imagine is you play a deck, you play a bunch of high cost cards and a bunch of discard and mill cards in your deck. And then like in the early game, you at some point you mill or discard a very high cost card. For example, your 14 mana strength robot. I think it's called the Crowbot. Yeah, that. Or like a Vox or something. So you have that in graveyard. And then on something like turn 7 or 8, you play... first of all, you play at peace on that high cost card, gaining you something like 14 HP. And then you play the Budding Spire, and you immediately sacrifice it so that you deal at least 19 damage to your opponent. Or like 18 with the Vox. And I think that could be really, really strong. So, and you can combo that with a lot of different cards. You can like attach some Spring Dew in there to put some more damage through. You can use your Shaw's Wager on the Budding Spire, and then use something like Bloodletter so that the Entomb goes off twice for a lot more damage even. And you can also use Forbidden Delicacy on this if you have if you fear that your opponent is going to silence it. So it has a lot of, you can, like, this combo is very flexible kind of, and like it can kill your opponent consistently on like turn 7 or 8. And why I think this combo is so strong is that it fits like so nicely with the other cards that got in this week. Like Overflowing Thoughts is just, it draws you 2 cards, which is good for like you need to draw your Budding Spire and your At Peace. And then it mills you a bunch of cards, which is good for milling the high cost cards, and also good for milling the Lost Huntsman, which will help you survive in the early game, because you need to survive until turn 8 or something to pull off the combo. And then you also have the Leyline Watcher to help you get to your 8 mana or whatever you need to get there more quickly. So I think that combo deck might actually be going to break the game. And also just Budding Spire in general can, like, it can combo with so much stuff. You just, like, basically you can make a combo out of every card that gains you a bunch of HP, and then you just sack your own Spire, and there you have your makeshift OTK. So Budding Spire, 5-star card. Very good in plants, very good in that specific combo decks, and perhaps in other combo decks that are here to come. You can also just play it in Marie to, like, gain 5, deal 5. And if you have your level 4 out, then it's like deal 20 and gain 10. Like, that's really good as well. So a lot of applications for the Spire. 5-star cards. Watch out for the Spire at Peace combo deck. So yeah, this was this week's cards. Quite a bunch of insane cards. There are some updates planned already, and also now the theory crafting can begin. You can make your deck lists now, and they will be playable in the next month. And yeah, I'm excited to see what other people can come up with for the meta of September. So yeah, stay well, play collective, and see you soon.